So a few days ago, my uncle came to visit me from Zanzibar here in Nairobi, and it was the first time in a while that we had enough time for a proper chat, because usually if you're just on a phone call, you don't have that much time, or you don't exchange that many thoughts or what's going on, or like, yeah, I think you get the point. And this time was the first time in a long time that we spent 2 full days together. We had enough time to chat, and there were a couple of things from that conversation that sticked up to now with me, and that I'm still thinking about also when I reflect about like my journey, my life, and what is actually important, what I want to share with you, that I get it out of my own head first of all, but also it might help you to also get some clarity here and there on some things. And there were essentially a couple of things I wanted to know from him. And the first one was just like how he now sees the life he used to live when he was still in Germany compared to the life he's living now, how he feels about the life he's living now, how his views on life maybe have changed over time. It's a little bit loud because I'm also here just going for a walk in my neighborhood. It's quite nice, but I already got unfortunately dark, but I hope you can still see me. But essentially, these were the things I wanted to know from him, just to get his perspective also on how this moving journey affected him, because essentially, to give you some more context, he used to grow up in Eritrea when he was a kid, and then I think with 13 or 14 he also moved to Germany with my father and the rest of the family as well. And ever since, he has been staying there, working there, doing business there, and this was the first time for him coming back also to the African continent, like now for I think over 2 years now also at this point. And essentially there were two main things that he was saying, that about the differences in life between now back on the African continent in Zanzibar and back home living in Germany. And I would say the first thing is that he said that the system is really there to hold you small, basically, or like to put you in chains, and that you're not able to have that much freedom to actually figure out what you want to do. And this means, for instance, in his story, is that he, as I mentioned, he came when he was quite young to Germany, worked hard, and I think he had his own businesses for over 20 years, 25 years or something. But essentially, he was working day in and day out, and this most of the time double the hours that normal people work. So it was, when you have a restaurant, you need to work, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 hours in Germany to make it work if it's not like a very big successful place. He could live well from it. He eventually also managed to build a nice, or like have a nice house, buy a nice house. He had a nice car, family, and everything that looks like the life we are supposed to live. And secondly, what he mentioned was that it's not just the system that tries to keep you in a place, it's also the expectations of people and the people that surround you, that, for instance, you need to always show up in a certain way or always act in a certain way, what means that you always have to behave the right way and are not really being yourself, or like you never truly can express yourself fully, because this is not what is expected from you. And what he was explaining to me is that this was keeping him, for instance, in chains sometimes, because first of the system, as I mentioned, the work was holding you tight, even if you achieved the things that were like the goals like we all have or had for a certain amount of time. And secondly, to the system, it's also that people expect certain things from you, that this again keeps you in chains, because you have to go to certain events just because people want you to be there, even if you don't care about it or them or people. You need to, I don't know, like basically you need to do things that actually are not really important to you, to put it in words, that are not really important to you, just because this is, and this just because everybody else and everything else expect you to act a certain way and to do certain things. And to give you now the difference, what he was telling me, how he lives now in Zanzibar for the last 2 years. And this, not to say that he is not working very hard. He went there and built his first Airbnb property. He built a second compound out with another 4 Airbnb properties. He has now purchased his own plot in Zanzibar. He's building there another couple of properties, so that he has in total, I think now 10 units or something that he rents out via Airbnb. Let me just take a seat so I can tell you the story properly. So it doesn't mean that he's not working hard or working less than before, because he's now again building out on a new plot, like whole new like houses and units for his Airbnb business. But the way he explained the difference to me is simply that now it's a bit more connected to freedom, what he's doing, and not because it's forced or it's wanted by anybody or any kind of system. He said the biggest difference between now living in Zanzibar for the last 2 years and living in Germany like for over 30, almost 40 years is just the kind of freedom he has. Because now he could really live up to the person he is actually himself, who he wants to be, and he does not have to stick with anything or do certain things that people and the system used to want from him. So basically, like, just living up to yourself, living up to the things you want truly for yourself is what made the biggest impact and difference for him in his life. That he now looks the happiest I ever saw him before, that he now feels the most freedom, that he can just now come over for 2 days, to fly to Nairobi and stay here for a couple of days here with me, and then he goes back and continues his work. What used to be outside of his perception of what is possible, that it just kept him stuck at work all the time back in Germany. And this is something that's very interesting, because if I can now bring it back to my personal views and to my personal life, it's not that same thing for me. It's not that I'm not wanting to work. It's not that I didn't want to be part of the system in Germany, but it just didn't feel right for me, because now when I moved, I was 23, so it's a completely different case than for him, because I had much less risk, I have much more time, I can make many more mistakes, and still I feel so much more freedom by just being here and doing what I truly want to do. And this is just, I would say, the biggest aspect of growth over the past couple of years, that I truly can decide or could redecide who I actually am, what things I want to do, and just live up to my own standards and live up basically to my true nature. Because back there, the same thing for me, even if I didn't realize it back at that time, but it's always that people want certain things from you, and that you have to do certain things from you. For instance, in my case was when I finished high school, people wanted me to study. When I was younger, people wanted me to study or do an apprenticeship or do a regular kind of job, or just go the traditional way, basically, what I never felt connected to somehow. And even when I was working next to school already, like almost what felt like or it was almost a full-time job, they still thought that I'm not going in the wrong direction, not in the right direction, that they wanted me to do, like I said, the traditional things, but I refused. And later on, I worked as well. It's not that I'm lazy, it's just that I just don't see myself fitting in this kind of system, because I always used to work in Germany 60, 70, 80 hours at my peak times back there, just because I was hungry, I wanted to learn, but I just didn't like the traditional path, basically. And this now is not that much of a difference, because now I still live on my own path, but now with much less negative perspectives on what I do, because I made myself free from them, first off mentally, second also physically, that I'm not in the same location anymore. Because even, for instance, if you are over there in Germany, for instance, or maybe I think I can assume it's in many Western countries the same, because I also lived in the States for a year, but I think in many Western countries it's similar. Let's say in Western countries, the people around you because they grew up with you. If you never left your hometown, for instance, they have certain kinds of expectations for you, if it's family, if it's friends, whoever it is, and you try to fit in, even if you sometimes don't feel like this is the right path for you. And now I have to say, since I came over here and I started completely over, I stepped out of this path completely. And not to say that this was without struggle or without fights or without many hard failures or failures I had to encounter basically to be at the point where I'm now, to know the things what I know now. So nothing came easy, just to say all of this. But now I also, if I reflect, I have to say that freedom, the freedom to truly decide what you want to do, to live your true nature, just wouldn't be in my possibilities when I would have been still back home in Germany. Of course, there's still opportunity, there's still things you can do, you can still live your life your own way and on your own terms if you want that. But it's just much more difficult because just as a society, even if I'm thankful for all the, let's say, the privileges I got from being born there and growing up there, it still somehow forces you into something that you are, that's not truly you, what makes it difficult to live a happy life. And this is what I see right now when I see and travel back home. I see many faces that are really not happy with the life they have, that are very unhappy with the work they do, that are consistently complaining, about the weather, even if it's not in their control. And even then they're complaining about things that are in their control, but they're not changing because the complaint is within the comfort, but change is not. And these are some of the things I understand now, because even if I always tried to make the best out of every situation or whatever I was in, it still makes it more difficult to truly live up to yourself and live up to your true nature because of all these biases around you, where nobody actually asks themselves why they think the way they think. If this is maybe an issue of the system, if it's maybe an issue of the people around them, because comfort over there is so big that people think that if you do something that is not normal, if you do something that is not basically, how can I put it in words? That people, if you do something that is, let's say, like I make videos now, and as long as I'm not very successful with it, or they don't see big numbers on the views, they don't see big numbers on as a subscriber count, for instance, they will think it's weird, they will think it's cringe, instead of supporting you along this journey. But when you then made it later on, or like when you then made it successful, then it's like that they then start to support you and say that things are very great. And I feel like just life there, people make their own lives very difficult by having these views on things, because this leaves them in a position where they never truly try new things, where they never truly find out what they actually care about, what they actually are good at, for instance, or what maybe is outside of the things they're doing right now, and questioning why they are doing the things they're doing right now. Because oftentimes, especially like now in immigrant families, for example, your parents have expectations for you, or they compare you to your cousin, your brother, to someone in the family who is becoming a doctor or who's becoming a lawyer or something like that. And this is what I also used to hear when I was younger, that I was supposed to become a lawyer, a doctor, or something like that. But the more I grew up and the more I gained life experience, the more I talked to people, the more I worked, the more I did just basically went through life and tried to soak in as many perspectives as possible, I understand that these are simply the dreams of people, of your parents, for instance, or the dreams of whoever this is, of, let's say, your parents in this case. But this doesn't mean that they are truly yours, what again forces you to do things that you don't care about. And the longer I live here, the more I can reflect on these things, the more I have distance between my life in Germany, between seeing what my friends and like other people I know like back home do, and like how they evolve personally. Even if they're still growing, I see in many the desire as well to break out. and they're still complaining about the same things that I just talked about. That people are unhappy, that people around them are not supportive, that basically everything is hard. People make everything hard there, because even at your workplace, people, your co-workers, they are looking if you're doing anything wrong, and they don't let you just be. And or maybe they don't let you be, but they also don't look at their own things, so they simply complain that maybe you do less work than them, what most of the time is not even true, because they just focus on what you do and focus on negativity. For instance, negativity is the word for me here that I was looking for. They are oftentimes too focused on negativity and putting you in the picture that fits for them, instead of just doing their own things and maybe trying to improve their own lives. Just because the path you choose, or I chose in this case, is not the right path for everybody, or it's not understood for everybody, doesn't mean that this is wrong. Because in the end of the day, what is right and what is wrong here in this world? Because we see things from the lenses of our own perspectives. We see things from the lenses of our own past and lived experiences, and maybe from things that we got taught from our surroundings when we grew up. But just because the beliefs of the people that we grew up with seem to be reasonable at a certain point of time, it doesn't mean that we have to keep them, and it doesn't mean that we have to live them for our entire life. What I'm trying to say is just that I really appreciate the life the opportunities that I received by growing up and being born and living in Germany for a long time. But now, with more distance between my life there and building my life out more here, I can also say, similarly to my uncle, that life here just feels like so much more freedom, and not just freedom, but also feels 100 times more aligned, and feels truly like I'm living my own nature. Finally, I'm living my own nature, that I don't care anymore what people think, or what they think is weird, or what they think is cringe, or what they think is right, because I know now that they have their own perspective on things, and this simply because they lived a different reality than me. And the more I understand this, the more I can break free from this. And this is why I really appreciate the conversation I also had with my uncle. I think it was a couple of hours that we just talked about this specific topic, that we really dove deep into the kind of freedom, and let's say the kind of freedom and also the new opportunity we received by breaking free, by breaking out from a lot of traffic here, but simply the kind of opportunity we receive by breaking free from the system that we used to live in, that is, first off, as I mentioned, the system itself from the government, but also the system and the way of thinking that the people around us have, that we could break free from these to truly live the way we want to live, and that this is the biggest freedom we can have. And so my key point and my key lesson here actually is that if you are not feeling like the things you do are truly aligned with you, maybe what I had to learn is to question myself, to question my own beliefs, to question why I was doing the things, or why I am doing things that I'm doing. If it's really my own decision, or if it's my own decision, or if I think that this is my own decision, but it's mainly based on other people's biases, perceptions, or what other people think is right for you. And this helped me a lot to understand this perspective as well, and I'm really happy to see my uncle like this as well, because now, as I said, the first time in years that I see him this happy. He went back with a lot of energy. He looks younger, he looks more relieved, he looks more refreshed, and I can see the same thing with me. Even if I'm still now just 25, it just has been almost 2.5 years at this point, but I can see that I wake up every single day, and I even want to do more work. I want to develop even further. I want to learn more things. I want to just grow and understand and find the true nature that I want to live for myself, and that I actually am, basically. So I hope this helps you a bit to understand my views on this, and how much freedom this move away from Germany or the Western country has given me, And the same for him, and the same, I could tell you countless stories. I brought many friends over here, and one of them is also almost for 2 years here now. I have another friend who grew up in Germany, but he now has also roots in Morocco, but he now also lives most of the time in Morocco. Same thing for a friend in South Africa. The same thing for many other people I met here along my way in Kenya, that come from all over the world, that build life here, found a new kind of freedom where they can truly find what they care about, who they actually are, and do not have to be the same way anymore, and can break completely free to just pursue life the way they want to pursue it, and not based on what the society and people in the country, like in Germany in this case, what most people would say is right. Because even if most people in this country say that the traditional path of working, of doing an apprenticeship, whatever, would have been the right way for me, I'm very happy that I took the way I took now, because now I can understand that this is not my reality at all. So yeah, I hope this message helps you to just question your own beliefs sometimes, and to understand that sometimes breaking free from your environment and breaking free from the traditional path, let's say, and trying to figure out what actually is yours, can give you the most freedom. And this, even if you earn a bit less money in the beginning, things will come over time. You will learn over time what makes you money. You will learn over time what makes you actually happy. You will learn over time what your actual path will look like. And I think this is the most powerful way to actually become the person you are supposed to be, and the person you can just simply be proud of in the end of your days. Because I feel like the longer I go this way, I go this route, I walk this path, I meet more and more people who think similarly than me. What was, let's say, a bit more difficult when I was still in Germany, but I was also spending a lot of time just on work, days in and days out. And the last thing I want to share here is that I said I appreciate the life and the opportunity I received from being born and raised in Germany, with the passport, with education, with opportunities, whatever. And even this gave me the chance to even be here, maybe even to think the way I think right now, and to have the privilege of the things that I have right now. And I'm very thankful, I'm very grateful, I'm very happy to have all of this. But still, in the end of the day, I'm even more grateful to have broken free from the system, from the society, from the things that I would say hold me back for a long time, that I can now truly live up to myself and truly figure out the correct way. And this might not mean for you that you have to move to Kenya or to an African country or whatever it is, but simply that you can still redecide what you truly want, what you want to be, where you want to be in life, and what your own path looks like. And for me, this path simply looked like, and for my uncle as well, it looked like for us to move to the African continent and build life here, build life on our own terms, and not be part of the regular system, or the, how we call it there, the matrix anymore, to break free from it and to just build out what truly matters to us. I would love to hear your stories as well, what shaped you, if you are truly living up to your own nature, and if you're doing the things you want. Just share your stories down below in the comments, and I appreciate you watching. I see you in the next video, and see you next time.